Well guys, welcome to another video. So another towing video, as you can see. Well, we are towing my trailer once again, and this time I'm pretty much moving, so I'm pulling on my household goods. I thought it'd be interesting to see how much everything weighs and kind of what we're coming in at. So just for comparison, this is total trailer and truck empty. Trailer axle's 3,000 pounds even, and the total weight with the truck and trailer is 9,900 pounds. So we're really only towing empty 3,000 pounds. Now we're at 7,600 pounds, so we're towing about 7,600 pounds, and then that's the total weight. I'll go ahead and throw the number on the screen real quick just to show you guys how much actual weight we're towing. I'm not counting the truck weight because that's dumb, but pretty much trailer, load, and whatever's in the rest of it. So this video, just kind of want to focus on a couple of things. A couple of things I did want to go over from last towing video. I didn't have any issues on the way up, however on the way back I had a braking issue. Turns out with the Hydro Boost, I guess the shaft that exits the Hydro Boost to goes into the master cylinder was a hair too long. So slowly it wouldn't let the brakes fully apply, pushing against the master. So I have two washers in there right now to kind of space out the master and hydro, and it seems to be working fine until I can figure out a more permanent solution. Probably just going to trim that shaft a little bit shorter, but for right now it's working. So that was an annoying issue. Other than that though, everything seemed to go pretty good. And gas mileage empty versus full weight was the same, 12.6. So this trailer, once again, has the worst aerodynamics of any trailer ever, and that's where the fuel economy goes down the toilet from. I will say, if you had an open top trailer or even a gooseneck or something else that was a little more aerodynamic than this, probably getting better gas mileage than what I'm getting. This is a 24 valve Cummins, 2001, 227,000 miles on it now, getting up there a little bit. So this is going to kind of be the journey, just documenting the trip, and anything that comes up, comes up. We'll be stopping at fuel stops along the way. We should be good to go. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get going. So this first leg of the trip, we are going to be going ahead and going 419 miles, and I'm just going to Nashville to go ahead and check that out. Seemed like a good halfway point to stop, spend the night there, and then we'll keep on going. So once again, this is my truck. Welcome to the video, and without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Just stopped and grabbed fuel. 99 bucks over in Tennessee. Fuel prices are about $3.25 a gallon, as opposed to the $3 I'm used to in Florida, so kind of sucks a little bit. But going up and down some, I don't know if I call them mountains, but definitely decent grade hills. We're getting about 12.2 miles to the gallon, so a little bit less, but that makes sense trying to keep up on these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here, go reset our mileage, and keep on going. So far so good. Really haven't had anything of significance happen, hence the lack of footage. So I don't know, not really sure if we can put this video out or not. We'll see. So far so good though. Definitely pretty happy with the truck. Just trying to get a map set up real quick. And this leg of the journey is almost over. I was trying to make it a one tank, but I had it was like 88 miles to empty is what it was saying, but it was getting down towards the 1/8 of a tank mark. And I don't know if I really want to run it that low for no real reason. And yeah, you never know. I don't really trust this thing with my heart and soul type of deal, so I felt comfortable filling up, and it filled up. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get back on the road and see how everything's going. Alrighty, 47 miles to go for today's leg of the journey. Probably do it the rest of the way, but there's really no point. It's another like 4 or 5 hours after that, and I got nowhere to be, so might as well just take the night and not go crazy. But I did notice something a little interesting. So I can't figure out if my oil leak, like visually looking at it, doesn't look any better than it did. It still looks pretty nasty, but like oil lossage seems to have gone down quite a bit. So on the way up to North Carolina for the racetrack, I went through about a quart of oil, a little less than a quart of oil, and about a tank of fuel. And then this time around, so added fuel, or added oil there, went through about another half tank, added another, somewhat more oil when I got there. Cracked the old windows real quick. You can kind of tell we're in some, not terrible like I was saying, but we're definitely on some hills here and there. But Yeah, so what I was saying with the oil consumption though, so we can't quite figure it out. I think we've slowed down on our rate of loss. I don't know why that is. I really don't know. Putting on quite a few miles recently, as you guys have seen, and I noticed that initially I went through, like I said, initially I went through about 3/4 of a quart for a tank of fuel. That was pretty consistent. And then I added about a little over a quart in North Carolina. I thought it was lower than it was. It was on an angle, so I overfilled a little bit. And I mean, since then, like the last tank of fuel, I went for 366 miles. I checked it and it was still just a little bit above the safe line. And now it's just a hair below the safe line. So it's not consistently losing oil like it was before. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe it's getting broken in, I don't know. But that doesn't really sound right. So, I don't know. But oil loss seems to be at a minimum right now, which I'm pretty happy with. It still is coating the underside, so it's coming out somewhere, but just not as rapidly, I guess. I don't know. I got a power wash under there, clean up everything, and see what we got going on. But there's the hills of Tennessee, I guess. I don't know if I've ever been to the state of Tennessee before, I'm not gonna lie. But truck's doing pretty good. On some of these steeper hills, I had it in cruise control for a while, but I'd lose just enough mile per hour, it would downshift and pretty much like go straight to about 2,700 RPM, just trying to get speed up a hill. And honestly, it's not worth trying to burn the fuel to get up that hill. So I just turned off cruise control. I haven't been foot pedaling it. I'll basically pin it out to where it's about max boost at about 20, 21 PSI. And then whatever the speed falls until we hit the top, and then go back up the speed and keep going. It's not worth the downshift to me, in all honesty, the extra stress. So that's pretty much your update of how things been going. Like I said, not too crazy. Engine temp, I did notice rise for the first time. Like, I feel like I've owned the truck. Maybe it was doing it last time, but up some of these hills, we'll get to maybe like 208, 209. As soon as we peak over and start getting the engine load off, it'll drop back down. This is a prime example. So it looks worse on that gauge because it peaks at 190, but on my scan gauge down there, I can see where it's at 202. That's kind of interesting, nothing too crazy, but this is what I'm talking about. Losing a little bit of speed, get down to about 65. Seems to be about the average of the peak. You just stay in it. That was pretty cool. And get back up to 70 and then ease off, and all things are well. So just pretty happy with how it's going. Pardon the mess in the truck, it's just kind of tired and snacking a little bit. So like I said, everything's going pretty good. Coolant temp is that top left one or top right one. And as you guys see, it dropped right back down again from, it was about 204, 195. It drops down to about 188 and stays around between 188 and like 193. So honestly, I can't complain, no issues. So I guess we'll see you guys at the next update. So yeah, just chugging along up a hill. Something I wanted to point out, dude. There we go. These roads are freaking garbage. There are so many instances where I'm like dodging and weaving. I don't even saw that, but like prime example, there's just straight up just inch deep chunks missing everywhere. Wild. I don't know what's up with the road funding here, but I don't know if it's just not that great or what, but definitely not cool. I do not enjoy running over giant potholes while towing. Not the most fun. That's kind of what I'm talking about right there. Like those, I don't know if they just dug out every single dash line. Like, what purpose? But they're just deep gouges. And granted, those are like at least out of the way, but on this side, like, these roads are just atrocious. If anyone in Tennessee, I'm sorry. Like, let's go through tires pretty quick up here. It's not great. Alrighty, so it's the next day. As you can see, it is raining absolutely wonderfully out. But go ahead and get the directions pulled up for our next destination. We got about 4 hours to go today, and hopefully we should be good to go. So it should be fun. about the Midwest is its likeliness for tornadoes and stuff, so clouds look a little bit more ominous out here. Pretty nice looking countryside though. Anyway, so I haven't really noticed any issue with the truck. Double checked oil at the last stop and dropped a little bit on the stick, nothing crazy. I did notice a weird vibration that I was picking up. I don't remember it being there before. Whenever I got in a full boost, it seemed to kind of like vibrate a little bit. So I went ahead and stopped for that just to check out everything. I didn't find anything weird. I did find one dually tire was at about 45 PSI where I set it at 60. So hard to say if it's a slow leak. I didn't see any nicks or dings or nails or anything. So I think it might be a slow leak somewhere. I don't know. It does have a new valve stem on it, so if you weren't tracking last time around, I replaced all the tires on this, forgot to replace valve stems when I did it, and had one give out on the North Carolina trip. It doesn't seem to be a case on this one though, so far so good. But the truck's doing pretty good. In all honesty, especially after, you know, putting on as many miles towing as we have in a short period of time, I'm very thankful that I wound up getting rid of the Avalanche for this thing, because although the Avalanche might have done it, I don't know how well it would have done it. I'd have done that as well as this thing. And in all honesty, like the towing that I'm doing is really 2,500 work. I don't think 1,500 should be super capable for this. Like, they can do it, but just long distance, you're putting a lot of wear and tear on stuff. Maybe some of the newer ones. 3,500 is probably a little bit overkill, but I'm liking the stability of the dually. I also tossed on the sway bars for the hitch, so it's kind of doing a little bit of weight distribution. I kind of front loaded the trailer a little bit, kind of keep some weight off the axles a little bit more on the front end. So the reason I did that is because the trailer axle rating is not as high as I'd like. They're 3,200 pound axles. There's two of them, so total it can take about 7,200 pounds. Loaded to about 7,700 over the trailer axles, so it seems to be working out though. Not the heaviest this thing ever been loaded down, but I don't like really going above spec like that. So in the future, I'm probably going to end up getting some with 200 pound axles, or something even bigger with 7K axles. But for right now, it's good enough and it's working. So looks like we're out of the fields and into some wooded area. But so far so good, just kind of cruising. And haven't really noticed any issues. So like I was saying, I'll go ahead and get you guys at the next stop. We should be there in about 45 minutes, which is kind of cool. And the truck's been doing really well. Definitely pretty happy with it. Well, gents, it has been actually a couple days now, and still on the road. I'm at a hotel for a couple days waiting around for some stuff to get figured out before I continue on. And I happen to notice that on top of that filter right there, it's kind of shiny, and there's some coolant of all things. So I've been trying to figure out what the heck and how it's even getting there. But I think there's a top bolt on this coolant oil cooler, and it seems to be seeping out of there slowly. So I checked my coolant level, and I just topped it off yesterday just to see where I can figure it out. It's already down to the add line, so it's definitely leaking out of somewhere. I go underneath the truck, I can find a few drips. Thought it was oil at first, but it's definitely clear and has this lubricity to it. But yeah, like right in here, that's definitely coolant. So not good. I'm gonna try tightening up these bolts just a little bit. It's possible I didn't quite tighten them enough when I did this a while ago, but definitely concerning. So hopefully we can get this sorted out. I'm gonna tighten them up, and I guess we'll see what happens. After a bit of finagling, I got my wrench on there, and check this out. So that's supposed to be tightened down to like 18 foot-pounds, and I easily turned that with my fingers. So guess that's where she's leaking from. But I can see it clearly looking down at there now. That dark patch is where it's coming from. So we're really happy that I was able to at least find it. We just gotta monitor it now. I'm gonna top off the coolant again, keep going. I was getting a little worried because I didn't see where the leak was coming from at first, and I thought maybe, I mean, it's rare for head gaskets to go on these trucks, to my knowledge anyway. I've not heard of any of them, if any of them, really going out, but yeah, you never know. So that's tightened down now. I'm gonna try and clean up the what little coolant around there that I can. And then I guess we're gonna go ahead and get to our next fuel stop, and hopefully that'll be that. But that's crazy, guys. Definitely did not expect this issue. Well, we're about to go ahead and head out in a minute. I also went ahead and checked the trans fluid. I noticed a weird, like, I don't know how to explain it. It felt like I was running over speed bumpers whenever I'm at a lower speed and it happens to drop into overdrive. And it kind of, I'm wondering if the trans is starting to slip a little bit in overdrive. I don't know, to be honest, but I checked the trans fluid level and it was just about on the tip of the dipstick, where instead of in the safe line. Checked it in neutral, running. It's not warm, but it's probably lower than it should be. So I added about half a quart and something else to monitor. Now, if that's leaking, I have absolutely no idea where it's leaking from. I haven't actually checked the transmission fluid since the rear main seal. Did the North Carolina trip, drove all the way out here, and this is about, I don't know, Illinois right now, so pretty far from Florida. So something else to monitor just to check. I probably should have checked that one sooner, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue on now. I'm driving up to Michigan, go ahead and see some family, and then coming back here and closing on a house. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, but so far so good. Just getting maps lined up. We'll be out of here. I'll go ahead, probably in the title, I wanted to put the actual total mileage I've driven, but yeah, so definitely got to monitor everything basically. So fuel stop should be in about, I don't know, 150 miles. I'll go ahead and check coolant and everything else then. If it is still leaking, that's going to be a problem. I might not make this trip. If it's not, though, which I hope it's not, that bolt was pretty loose and I tightened it up, so hopefully it's all right, but definitely interesting. Anyway, guys, without further ado, oh, I did want to say the reason it would be leaking is because that bolt pretty much goes straight into the motor, and on the inside of the motor are a bunch of coolant passages for basically around the cylinders and cylinder walls. That's where the coolant flows, so it's not like mixing with oil or anything, but it can escape through there when the pressure builds up and stuff, so good to know. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going, and hopefully that's the end of that. Alrighty. Looking decent. I just got done checking the trans fluid. We're still low a little bit, so I went ahead and topped it off. And on the bright side, our coolant leak is definitely stopped. So we just went about 150 miles, almost 200, and totally dry right there. So there's nothing leaking there, which is awesome. I'm gonna go check the oil real quick, top off the fuel, and I think we'll be good to go. Although I did notice there's definitely some weird mark on the belt. I wonder if it got like a rock or a ding in it or something. It's kind of weird. But yeah, coolant level totally full like it was before earlier. So that's awesome. Huge relief. I was very worried about that. So I'm gonna go check the oil level, just make sure we're good there. Fuel up, and then we'll be on our way. Well, we are on our way back from Michigan, actually. Went ahead and took about a couple days there to see family and stuff. And while I was there, I looked into the vibration I was feeling and a couple other things. Took off the trailer, drove it around a little bit just to see how the truck felt without anything. And I'm pretty confident it's probably, I think it's the overdrive clutches starting to give out on the transmission. So that kind of sucks. However, it's not really unexpected. One of the reasons you shouldn't tow an overdrive, especially up mountains and stuff, I didn't think about it when I went into them, is because these Dodges really don't have great transmissions. So I think we're going to wind up doing a built transmission on this thing in the future. Probably going to wind up doing it myself. And then I was mainly concerned because it felt like a misfire under load, and without the trailer, so there's less load, but doing the same exact stuff, the truck felt perfectly smooth. Something else I did notice, so I haven't done a blow-by test on this truck, which is simply just taking the oil cap off, tossing it under, upside down on top of the where it usually sits, with the engine hot and just idling there. So it's supposed to, ideally, like, one, visually you shouldn't see really much coming out. There's going to be water vapor, but that's about it. The oil is just going to have some kind of vapor coming off of it, not a big deal. But it shouldn't like move that cap around at all. If you set it on top and the cap's bouncing around, probably they're starting to have blow-by issues, either the ring, probably the rings. So I done it a long time ago when I first got the truck, stuck it upside down, didn't budge, it was fine. Took it on this time and it didn't bounce necessarily, but it didn't sit flush either. It was basically just enough to have a little bit. If I would hold it in place, it would not quite sit flush. It would, the air would push it up just a little bit and slide around. So that was concerning. Not the worst in the world, but not great. And I was kind of racking my brain about what could possibly be the reason it would have more blow-by now than it did before. and it came down to the catch can I put on. So even though the OG, so what I did, I tested it, I took off the pipe that goes to the catch can, and basically, instead of venting out that vent tube, it was trying to vent out the oil cap. Took it off, put the cap back on. It was the exact same amount of blow-by as I had before, which is basically none, except for whatever goes out that vent tube. So pretty much the vent tube was cut off significantly. I didn't really think it would be an issue when I put the catch can on. Pretty much, even though it's a 5/8 opening for the pipe to adapt, it actually turns down to about a 1/4-inch hole that goes in the catch can, and then a 1/4-inch hole that goes out that little vent that's on top of it. If you saw the video, you know what I'm talking about. So I either got to drill out those holes and get more ventilation, or get a different catch can or something, because around that whole area there's like quite obvious signs that there's been stuff blowing through the filter there. It's not, there's a little bit of oil and then a lot of water vapor and stuff, and just kind of like taking the oil stuff with it. It's not doing a great catch can job. It's still making a mess. So I just took off the catch can for now and just have that hose hanging down there, and it definitely is I think it's just a little bit cleaner for the motor to be able to get the extra crankcase pressure out. It wasn't enough to like pop the dipstick or anything like that, but it's definitely not ideal, especially with oil leaks. It's going to push it out of the seals instead of letting it vent the extra pressure out that way. So I'm glad there's no extra blow-by that I wasn't aware of, so that's good. I did notice, now granted it got down to about 30, it was about 37 when I was testing, so it was a lot colder than I'm used to it being in Florida. And I did notice some haze at idle. Now the truck always did have a little bit of haze, but I couldn't tell if it was more or less or what. I think part of it's cold weather. As you know, like, exhaust is going to have a little bit more visibility in cold. And then I think the injectors could also be starting to see their age. So what I'm going to wind up doing, I think I'm going to wind up doing a compression test and a leak down just to make sure everything's healthy. And then probably do injectors in the future just so I know that they're good. Might be a good time if we're doing a build trans to go ahead and do like maybe a plus 50 horsepower injector. So the only reason a plus 50 horsepower, that's about what the stock turbo can handle before it starts getting EGTs out of control. So I think that'd be a nice power increase over what it is now. But that's kind of the update I have for you guys. Truck's feeling pretty good. We just got to Indiana, and yeah, so just kind of wanted to let you know what's going on. And I was kind of sweating for a while there. I still think the trans is doing transmission stuff, which kind of sucks, but I don't know. I've had worse stuff happen, like a blown motor. I just didn't want to deal with motor issues and trans issues in a motor that's supposed to be, for better quotations, bulletproof. Granted, almost 230,000 miles is getting kind of up there. If it was neglected in its early life, which is super possible, then, you know, that could have been a lot harsher than it would otherwise be. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get back on the road. By the time we're done with this thing, we'll tally up all the miles. Hopefully we won't have any more issues, and see how it goes. While I was there, I did give the truck a good once-over. I did find a couple little things, nothing crazy. The air filter was super dirty, so I cleaned that off. It's a washable filter, so I just basically washed it out. Got a lot of grime off. I found that both negative terminals, one side, the terminal that it clamps on was a little loose, and the other side where the battery wire clamps on, not the actual bolt, but the where the wire clamp is, was a little bit loose on the other side, so I cleaned that up, and just kind of giving everything, making sure there's no issues. I have been noticing that, I don't know if it's, maybe I haven't filled the transmission properly, or if I might be having a small trans leak somewhere, because I did put it in a quart, and I put it in about another quart recently over this course of this trip, so it seems to be okay, but that could be another reason for possible extended wear. I don't know. I'm just not sure entirely where it'd be leaking out of. So I do have to give the underside a pretty good once over once we're done with this. So. went ahead and took a break for a little bit, spent the night at a hotel, and found out where my trans fluid was going. Had a leak out of that little connector right there. So tightened it up, and you can see that's fresh. That was dripped earlier when I had it running. I was just sitting there trying to figure out where it's leaking from. So that answered that question. And then, what else you got going on? I think I had a vacuum leak, which I was noticing when I disconnected my tube down there. That goes to the catch can. And it seemed to be blowing pretty steady. So the thing is, I've never actually looked for where this thing blew out steam, basically, because it's always hung out, you know, there. So when you do the blow-by test, as it is hooked up factory, which is just leaving the tube there, take the motor cap off, flip it upside down, stick it there after it's warmed up, of course. There's no, it didn't move around or anything. So when I had the catch can on, catch can fitting right there, even though the fitting is big, the actual hole in the inner diameter is super tiny, and we're having some issues with that. So I think it's creating a little bit of extra pressure that's not usually there. And the reason I bought a vacuum pump is vacuum pump is right there, and it basically sucks in. This is the vacuum line. I redid this just right now, actually, because a lot of these old fittings were pretty rotten and messed up. Still a couple of them. This line needs to get replaced, and kind of going back here, but it does all your HVAC, cruise control, all that stuff. So it's enough to keep everything working, but basically it just sucks in air. Air's got to go somewhere, and it just puts it right into the crankcase. So aside from the natural blow-by that diesels have, there's some additional from the vacuum pump. So anytime you have a vacuum leak, it'll be more pronounced. So it is possible. I replaced the fittings that looked really worn out. There were some like old looking rubber ones in here that were real beat. And yeah, so went and got some trans fluid to go ahead and top this off. I was doing some more research last night, and I'm almost positive it's the converter that's slipping, not the actual transmission. Just because when you're sitting in gear, I'll throw some video up, when you're sitting there driving, it only does it when it unlocks to try and get more RPM, for especially in overdrive. It doesn't like slip through the RPM band, it just kind of vibrates weird. And shuddering is a sign, according to the internet, of failing torque converter. So shuddering, kind of feeling laggy in power, which it really does in the early first gear is pretty good, and then second gear and third gear really kind of like, second especially, but third gear is eh. And then when it goes into overdrive lockup, it's okay, but still. So I suspect it's probably a torque converter, so we're gonna hold off on doing a trans rebuild because I need this truck to do stuff still. Probably pull the trans, do a torque converter, and call it good. Hopefully that'll fix whatever's going on. Still take it a little easy, but yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop out dipstick, top off our trans fluid, we'll get back on the road. We're about a couple minutes away from the new headquarters. So once we move in and everything, start doing more projects on the truck. Same thing, we gotta go get the car, still drive to Virginia and grab that. Virginia, North Carolina, and we should be good to go. So go ahead and top off our trans fluid like I was saying, and then we will continue on the way and hopefully wrap up this video. Well boys, welcome to the new headquarters. Looks pretty awesome. So truck made it here without any issues, minus that converter lockup thing that I probably got to get a new converter for, but she sounded good. I think a lot of the haze and stuff, because he got down to like 37 when I was in Michigan, kind of freaked me out. But all in all, doing pretty good. Look at this car to go by, and I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. But the front here, this is the blow-by hose. You can see a little bit, but I don't think that's too bad. So that's fully warmed up and everything, as you guys can see. So once again, when I was in Michigan and stuff, it got real cold. You can see your breath and everything. I think I was over exaggerating, but I mean, where she's hanging out at. Like, it's not that warm, it's like 168, but still, it's definitely warm enough. But yeah, she's feeling good. I think I was just over exaggerating stuff like I was saying. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Finally, the trip is over with. I'm still gonna go back to North Carolina, grab the car, I'll make a video telling that stuff, and hopefully get some more drag runs in there before I come back here. And then after that, I mean, I think we should be good. So I think I'm probably gonna wind up ordering a torque converter. I know that if the trans goes out, it'll take the converter with it. Kind of sucks, but I'm not noticing any slipping. You guys saw what I saw, and from what I've been reading, is really the converter that's probably having issues. 1, 2 kind of feels real lazy, even 3 sometimes, and then the 4th gear, apparently it was supposed to happen, the converter's supposed to unlock when you really throttle it, kind of give you a little more RPM and slip the rest of the power through the transmission. And I think whenever it goes into that unlock state, it's starting to slip and just kind of like be weird. So that shuddering is probably what I'm feeling. And yeah, should be good. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully not too far from here, and we'll start getting stuff figured out. So like I said, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.